Good morning from Scotland, everybody. My name's Nick and I'm one of the Discover Scotland tour leaders. Now, since you can't currently come to Scotland, what we thought we would do is to bring a little bit of a taste of Scotland to you. So sit back, relax and enjoy the ride with me. So we're going to start our tour at Stony Molin Roundabout, which is the gateway to Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park. It became a national park in 2002 and is one of two national parks that we have in Scotland, along with the Cairngorms. Now, as we approach Stony Molin Roundabout, you might be able to see a structure on there. The structure is actually the upturned hull of a boat with some geese flying around it. But locally, it's not called Stony Molin Roundabout. We jokingly call it the £1 Million Roundabout because, you probably guessed it, cost £1 million to build. So it was quite a controversial structure at the time, and still is today in many ways. I mean, I'm sure you guys could think of a lot better things to spend £1 million on, couldn't you? You could get 2 cups of coffee in Starbucks, a sandwich on an EasyJet flight. You get the picture. Now, as we come down the hill, on the right hand side you can see an impressive set of gates here, and the police car sat just next to them, no doubt eating his lunch and having a little bit of a nap afterwards, as police like to do. Now, I might have a little bit of an idea why the police are there. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But the gates, they are marking the estate of the Clan Colquhoun, who were once one of the most powerful clans around the Loch Lomond area. But these days, behind there is actually home to Loch Lomond Golf Club. And believe it or not, membership can cost upwards of £100,000 just to join. Now, I've just turned off the main road here, and we're heading down towards the beautiful little highland village of Loch, which means herb or plant in Scottish Gaelic. So there's said to have been a settlement at Loch since the early medieval times, but in the 19th century, the Colquhouns built the present-day village, and that was to accommodate their workers for the local slate quarries. Now just look at that blue sky, guys, and this is the weather that we get every day here in Scotland. Honest, not a word of a lie. Now, just up ahead on the left hand side here, you can see a car parked on the verge, which kind of looks suspiciously like that of our managing director Michael. Now, he'd like to tell you all that he's very hard at work there, planning new things, fantastic new experiences for you all, but in reality I think he's just getting away from his wife's dreaded to-do list. Now, we're just coming into the tiny little settlement of Dokley, which sits on the western shores of the bonny banks of Loch Lomond. It's a small wee place. As you can see, there's only a few cottages here, but they are absolutely beautiful. Now, those of you with a very eagle eye might have even picked up a couple of small figurines of Harry and Meghan there in one of the cottages' gardens. I'm sure most of you will have heard of the Highland Games, which take place across various locations in Scotland each year. Now on the right hand side is Loch Games Field, which hosts Loch's Highland Games every July here. Highland Games date back as far as the 11th century in their ancient form and were revived during the Victorian period. It's amazing to think that we're only actually 45 minutes outside of Glasgow and already we're into the Highlands of Scotland and coming through all this beautiful countryside. So we're just making our way through the top of the village of Loch. You can see on the left hand side you've got the Loch Lomon Arms Hotel. We're just going to carry on through and into the main village car park. Now in the olden days the Highlands were notorious for things like banditry and thieving, some of which still go on today. They're called traffic wardens. So we're just coming into the car park now. Oh look, got another Discover Scotland van here. Looks like my colleague Jeff, and that would probably for various reasons explain the police car that we saw earlier. Okay, so we're away from Loch now and we're just heading north at the A82 right along the bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Now in just a few seconds the trees will start to clear, and on the right hand side you'll be able to see A, the Loch, as you might expect, and B, the snow covered peak of Ben Lomond, and that is the most southerly mountain in the Scottish Highlands. Okay, so we've just cleared the northern end of Loch Lomond now folks, and we're continuing north at the A82. Now in just a few seconds on the right hand side you're going to see an old spooky looking building, and that is called the Drovers Inn, named after the cattle drovers that used to move Highland cattle from the Highlands down to the Scottish lowlands. It's pretty old, this building, actually opened up in 1705 and was even frequented by a Scottish outlaw and folk hero, Rob Roy MacGregor. Now if you forget the date they're open guys, just go into the pub next time you're in Scotland and it is all over the bar staff's t-shirts. I'll be honest guys, I don't think I've ever seen a traffic light go green that quickly, so I'm a little suspicious here. We're just going to make our way through the roadworks here. Okay, so we're just north of Bridge of Orkney now folks, and we're on the approach to Rannoch Moor. But just before we get on to Rannoch Moor, what we're going to do is to take a little stop at one of my favourite viewpoints in the whole of Scotland. This is the beautiful Loch Tulla that we're going to see, and it overlooks the Black Mount and just looks spectacular. Every time you come up here you think you got the best photo, but it gets such different light, and you know the sun hitting it, a little bit of snow on there. It just looks spectacular in pretty much all weather. Okay folks, so we're on to the great wilderness of Rannoch Moor itself now, and we're just over 1,100 feet above sea level up here. Now over 80% of Rannoch Moor is actually blanket bog or water, believe it or not. Now probably the most useless fact that you'll ever hear in your entire lives guys is that Rannoch Moor is said to be home to somebody famous, and that famous somebody is actually Scrooge McDuck, Donald Duck's uncle, and Castle McDuck, his ancestral home, is said to be located somewhere on the dismal downs of Rannoch Moor. Alright, this is one for you James Bond fans here. So ahead of the bus on the left hand side you can see a big triangular mountain which is Bucol Etiv Mor, which means the Great Shepherd of Etiv. And on the right hand side, the rectangular wavy looking mountain is Ben Afrulaster. Can't believe I managed to pronounce that, quite frankly. But the reason that the James Bond fans' ears are pricking up right now is this is the scene that you see in Skyfall, with James Bond and M zooming down here in the classic Aston Martin as he takes her to the safety of the Highlands and his ancestral home, Skyfall. So in Scotland, guys, Glen is actually a valley. It's a steep-sided valley, usually the classic U or V shape that you see, so that's what we call a glen in Scotland. A strath is actually a wider valley, usually with a river running through it, so that's the difference between a glen and a strath. Now, James Bond is meant to be an English secret agent, as we know, folks, but not a lot of people know, sound a bit like Michael Caine there, that Bond's father was actually written as being born in Glencoe, and that Ian Fleming actually had a house not too far from where we're going to pull up next in the lay-by, and that's down Glen Etiv, which is the road just before you get to Bucol Etiv Mor. Wow, just look at that for a view, guys. I mean, you come to Scotland, you see this, I'm pretty sure there's no way that you can be disappointed. It's just absolutely spectacular. I can't think of any other word for it. It's just out of this world for me. Bucol Etiv Mor is said to guard the entrance to Glencoe. Now, Glencoe is probably best known for one of the most tragic and infamous events in Scottish history that took place on the 13th of February 1692. The event that I'm talking about is the Glencoe Massacre, where the MacDonalds of Glencoe were heartlessly and ruthlessly murdered by British redcoat soldiers because they'd been late in taking a signed oath of allegiance to the new king. So those soldiers had been staying with the MacDonalds for the previous 2 weeks under the ancient system of Highland hospitality. So it was a shocking betrayal of trust, and that's something that still reverberates around Scotland and the Highlands even today. Now, there were plenty of other clans who hadn't taken the oath of allegiance or had been late in doing so, like the MacDonalds, but the MacDonalds were selected probably for 3 reasons. Firstly, they weren't the most popular of the clans and were seen as cattle rustlers. Secondly, they didn't have a castle up here, a stronghold where they could defend themselves. And thirdly, with Glencoe being a valley, in theory it was quite easy to close off, stop people getting in or out. Now, that horrific story that I've just told you there, folks, might be familiar to you if you're a fan of the TV show Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin, who wrote the original books to the series, has cited the Glencoe Massacre and another event in Scottish history called the Black Dinner as the inspiration for one of the most shocking episodes in the TV show. And that is the Red Wedding at the end of season 3. You don't forget that one in a hurry. Now, just on the left-hand side, guys, we're actually seeing the little sister of the big triangular mountain that we saw earlier, Bucol Etiv Mor. And its little sister is called Bucol Etiv Bec, which means the little herdsman. So we're just starting to come into Glencoe itself now, folks. Did you know that Glencoe was once dominated by a supervolcano around 400 million years ago? And that its cauldron subsidence still attracts geologists from all around the world? And there you are, folks, on the left-hand side, one of the most recognisable and spectacular sights in the whole of Scotland. You are looking at the famous Three Sisters of Glencoe: Faith, Hope and Charity. If you'd like to have a go at pronouncing their names in Scottish Gaelic, guys, the first one, Faith, is called Ben Fada, the middle one, Hope, is Ger Anoch, and the last one, Charity, is Anoch Du. The stunning backdrop of the Three Sisters have been used in several film and TV productions. Most famously, they've been used several times in the Harry Potter movies. If you remember the last film in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, you'll see the Three Sisters in the climactic final showdown between Harry and he who must not be named. I'm talking about Voldemort here, not Justin Bieber. So the peaks of the Three Sisters are part of a bigger mountain range called Bidden Nambian. Now you can see several cars pulled up here in the car park, and there'll be a mixture of hikers, walkers and serious mountaineers who'll be heading off up into those peaks there. Between the first of the Three Sisters is a place called the Lost Valley, or the Hidden Valley, and that's where the MacDonalds of Glencoe used to hide the cattle that they'd stolen from their rival clans. And also, rather cheekily, used to hide their own cattle up there so that the other clans wouldn't steal it. So as I'm sure you'll agree, guys, Glencoe is absolutely spectacular. But even with this natural beauty, there's still a real tinge of sadness about the place due to that tragic day in 1692, the Glencoe Massacre. Now coming up on the left hand side, folks, is Loch just at the western edge of Glencoe. Hard to spell and even harder to pronounce, so I wouldn't do that if you've had a few whiskies, in fairness, but I think you'll agree it's not a bad place to end our virtual journey. You never forget your first time to Glencoe, guys, that much I can promise you. I remember the first time that I visited, and it stayed with me ever since. I just couldn't believe that we had all this on our doorstep here in Scotland. And so while we can't welcome you at the moment, I really hope that you've enjoyed this virtual journey with me, and we all look forward to welcoming you when you are able to visit. So from all of us at Discover Scotland, take care, stay safe and come and visit us soon.